Foreigners are quietly leaving China. Take a look at this footage. Do you see any foreigners here? It's kind of surprising since this was buzzing with expats. It was known as an expat area. But now you can't see any. Bars that used to be full of the drunken laughter of foreigners coming back from a day of teaching English are now empty, closed down, don't exist anymore. International schools and training centers, no longer there. Fewer and fewer foreigners live in China. And it's a trend that I've been seeing over the past couple of years, and it's been accelerating quickly. And I'm going to tell you why. Once thriving expat communities in Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing, and other big cities are shrinking massively or have completely disappeared. As I mentioned, international schools are losing students or have completely closed. Training centers shut down. Very few remain. Long-term expats, even those who have families in China, who learn Chinese, who know how to read, speak, and write Chinese, are packing their bags and getting out of Dodge. So why is this happening? I'm going to tell you. But first, the 11th hour. That panicked, harrowing last-minute struggle to set something right. What if you could bolster your life against such a scenario? Save yourself from potential financial and reputational ruin? Well, dear viewer, there is a way. Let Surfshark be your armor in the battle that is the internet. Having a VPN these days is a must for anyone who does anything serious on the internet. It's your first line of defense. It hides your IP from snoops, it keeps your ISP none the wiser as to what you're doing online, and it offers all sorts of other benefits. Like for instance, certain things cost more in certain regions, and by moving your IP address with your VPN, you can usually get a discount. Check it out to get some peace of mind. Give yourself that extra little bit of security and take advantage of all the extra services like being able to watch videos that are blocked in your country online. Go to surfshark.com/SerpentZA and use the code SerpentZA at checkout to get 4 extra months off of Surfshark VPN. Hey babe, I just got us 4 months extra of Surfshark. Again, go to surfshark.com/SerpentZA and use the code SerpentZA at checkout to get those 4 extra months. And now, back to the show. So there's a couple of reasons why this has happened. First of all, political climate. Right now, nationalism is rising in China. And of course, when nationalism rises, foreigners feel less welcome. I mean, it's crazy how things change from day to day in China. One day, America's the enemy. The next day, Japan is the enemy. The next day, it's South Korea. Who knows who's next? The French? The British? There's always some enemy because the Chinese government has to always divert attention away from their bad actions. And they always do this by saying, oh, America's bad. Oh, look, Russia's bad. Oh, look, this person's bad. It doesn't matter who's bad, but it has to be someone other than the Chinese government. This leads to so many uncomfortable situations. You have to watch out and tiptoe around people and sometimes lie about where you're from, lie about your nationality in order to avoid uncomfortable situations. It's not pleasant. There's now much stricter government oversight over expats in China. It has become so unreasonably strict that those expats who used to completely avoid scrutiny in the past, let's say you're from America, from the UK, from a developed country, you have a proper job, you're law-abiding, you pay your taxes, you've got the right visa, you don't do anything bad, those people used to be left alone. But now even they are being targeted and checked up on and scrutinized. And of course, that doesn't exactly make you feel very welcome, now does it? It leaves you with the feeling of being watched. Of course, the main reason why most foreigners I know have left, even those that had been there for over a decade, were the COVID lockdowns. This really woke people up, especially the people in Shanghai, because Shanghai has always been the largest expat community in China. I mean, historically, it has always been the international city of China, and they were locked down harder than anywhere else. I have friends who personally spent over a month without being able to leave their apartment in Shanghai. Some of them even longer, 2 months. And this was devastating. The only time they could leave was when they had to go get their mandatory tests every day, where they'd shove a Q-tip all the way up into your brain and test you and send you back to your apartment. Mind you, they're testing everyone in a queue where possibly if someone's infected, they'll infect everyone else. Anyway, it was a terrible time. It really messed with people. It screwed with people's mental health. And the biggest thing is that it shattered an illusion. Most foreigners who go to China, they make up this fantasy in their mind, myself included, that it's a free society where you're free to be yourself and do whatever it is you please. Now, this comes for a couple of reasons. Number one, the law enforcement in China is very selective, right? If they see a foreigner doing something bad, they usually won't bother you because they just don't want the hassle. At least that was the case in the past. So if you've got a foreigner misbehaving, they'll leave them alone. Second of all, the language barrier. When you can't hear what people are saying around you, when you don't understand the signs that say you may not do this, you may not do that, you may not do that, you think everything's cool. You could be and do whatever you want. Well, guess what? When the Chinese government comes, locks you in your apartment, doesn't allow you to leave, doesn't matter how much you scream and shout about your rights and about your personal freedoms and so on, you realize that you're living in a country that can take away your freedom and treat you like a prisoner. Like that. And that was the last straw for a lot of people, even people who'd been there for years and years and years, because it showed them that they're one government decision away from being a prisoner, one government decision away from being completely out of control of their life. Nobody wants to live in a situation like that. Nobody wants to be one bad decision away from being locked away. And it was unreasonable too. The reasons for doing it were, quite frankly, bullshit. You know, even when the lockdowns ended, I mean, the toll on people's mental health was unimaginable. The separations, the fact that many of my friends almost starved to death and had to barter with their neighbors through the windows to try and get food and so on. It's insane. But even when the lockdowns ended, the trust never returned. And of course, how is the trust going to return? How are you going to trust the Chinese government? Anyone who lived through those lockdowns will forever have serious trust issues with the Chinese government. That's why the majority of foreigners that I know left. Even the diehards who decided to stick around after the lockdowns, well, they were sticking around so they could save up enough money to successfully move somewhere else. Another factor, of course, are economic pressures. You know, jobs have dried up in China. The economy is on a downturn. And I'm talking for everybody, not just expats. Factories are closing, wages are not being paid. We're seeing a huge problem when it comes to just cash flow and being able to pay your staff. The demand for English teaching has gone down massively too, and this is ever since Xi Jinping decided to put this China First policy in place and to teach his Xi Jinping thought. He doesn't want foreign ideology in the schools, in the universities, and part of that, well, is English teaching. They shut down after-school training centers and made them illegal. So those were the training centers that were providing the majority of English teaching jobs to foreigners who went to China. So those jobs don't exist anymore. The few English teaching jobs that do exist are in high demand, especially in universities, because those are prestigious jobs. Those are jobs that are solid and stable. And so there aren't that many positions open, but there are a lot of foreigners trying to get in there. So you don't have much choice when it comes to work opportunities. Whereas, say, 5-10 years ago, it was very easy to go to China. And as an English-speaking foreigner, you were in demand and you could pick and choose your jobs. No longer. We also have to bear in mind that there are quality of life issues which just get worse in China. I mean, of course, you've got pollution and worrying about your health, everything you eat and everything you drink in China. You have to be a little bit cautious because, well, there have been tons of scandals. And of course, all the drinking water is being contaminated in China. And we all know pollution's not great there. Even if they're cleaning bits up here and there, it's still bad. But think about internet censorship. You don't understand how bad it is to live without reliable internet until you've lived in China for a number of years. You see, you can use a VPN, even though it's illegal for locals to use it. Foreigners can use it and kind of get away with it. But VPNs are flaky. That's why you usually have to have 2 or 3 different ones. And when this one goes down, you go to the other one. When that one goes down, you try the other one. Sometimes all of them go down at the same time. It's frustrating when you cannot open your Gmail. It's frustrating when you cannot use Google Maps or Google Translate. It's really frustrating that no Internet of Things devices work. For instance, if you have an Amazon Alexa smart speaker or a Google smart speaker, they will not connect. They cannot work, even a Google Chrome. Anything that's not Chinese proprietary stuff, which is heavily monitored and tied to your ID card, is not going to work. And it's incredibly bad and frustrating. and you'll know. I mean, try streaming Netflix or a YouTube video when your internet keeps getting blocked and stifled, and then you have to try find ways around it. It sucks. So that just gets worse and worse. Try do something basic like get a credit card. The hoops you have to jump through as a foreigner, the bureaucracy you have to go through. Of course, it's far harder for foreigners than locals to do basic things like sign up for payment systems and so on. It's difficult, it's not very welcoming, and it's a big barrier to entry, and it's something that actually kind of makes you mad and resentful after a while living in China, because everything is harder for a foreigner to do. Pair that with the growing feeling that you're no longer welcome there, and you can understand why most foreigners have been leaving or have already left China. But where are they going? Well, it's simple. China's time's over, right? Its economic boom has plateaued. It's reached the peak. It's not going to keep growing. It's done growing. But countries like Vietnam are still growing. Countries like Vietnam have that vibrancy, that openness, that feeling that everything's getting better. I witnessed this myself when I visited Vietnam. It reminded me of the early days when I came to China. It's in that boom period. But foreigners are going to Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, not only because it's more fun, more welcoming, and easier to get there and work there, but on top of that, lots of companies are relocating to these places and, staff are moving along with them. If they're not going to other countries in Asia, foreigners are moving back home. And of course, the main reason for this is people know they have rights in their home countries. People understand that if they invest in something like buying a house, it actually belongs to them. It's not a lease from the government that can be taken away at a whim. They're not going to suddenly have their visa cancelled or denied when they try to renew it. So a lot of people get tired of playing that game and want that stability, and so go back to their home countries. And of course, living abroad, you start to realize the good things about your country, the things you took for granted. So that's another place people are going. For the more adventurous people, they're going to places like Africa, South America. There are countries that are currently growing at a rapid pace right now, and it's exciting, and it's the place to be. Like I said, China has plateaued and is in decline. So let's look at the bigger picture here. China wants to portray itself as an open, global country that's welcoming in investment, welcoming in foreigners. But guess what? It's anything but. Policies and attitudes have reversed and gone backwards. China has closed up. Propaganda is just being blasted out like you won't believe, trying to portray China as something that it isn't. Censorship is on the rise. Nobody can say anything that makes China look bad, or nobody can criticize the Chinese government. The only foreigners that are welcome in China are those that are willing to sing the praises of the Chinese government, those that are willing to get down on their hands and knees and lick the dirt, kowtow to the Chinese government, denigrate the West, and paint China as an amazing utopia. Those are the only foreigners that you can have in China. It's pretty easy to test. Ask any foreigner living in China if they can criticize the Chinese government. Ask them to criticize even a small thing from the Chinese government. You'll see they can't. But ask them to criticize something about their home country's government, and they'll go on all day about how bad it is. But they cannot criticize even the smallest thing when it comes to the CCP, because they know they'll no longer be welcome in China. It's not a way to live. This massive exodus of foreigners from China shows that China is closing off and closing down. This would not be happening, obviously, if it was a very open country. They have this visa-free travel policy, but that's only for propaganda purposes. You're allowed to come in, you're allowed to look around, take pictures of the tourist sites, and then you're out. You try to do anything sus while you're there, you'll be quietly taken care of. I lived in China for 14 years. That's a massive chunk of my life. I experienced this all from the very exciting beginning, seeing China as it was rising, seeing China as it was opening up, getting rich, really just becoming a special place, to it starting to close down, become more draconian, become more censorship heavy, become meaner, and become quite terrifying, to be honest. I understand why foreigners are leaving. It's also very telling that the only foreigners that you see going to China and singing the praises of China now are either people that have been locked into Chinese state media jobs or doing the propaganda for China, or people that weren't there during the lockdowns of COVID, people that didn't experience the heavy-handed fist of the government during that time. And they're just going through a honeymoon period saying like, wow, look at this. You've got, subways and roads and high-speed rails, and it's all good and well. China has a lot of interesting and positive things to talk about. But unfortunately, the entire country is governed by the CCP, the Communist Party of China, who has no interest in doing anything but serve itself. And that means steamrolling over the people of China, steamrolling over the entire world, as long as they get to consolidate more and more power. And you know what the irony of all of this is? They're chasing away their best ambassadors. They are chasing away the foreigners who could legitimately give China a better reputation. And the funny thing is that China, now more than ever, needs more foreigners. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome. Check out my Friday show, and can't wait to see you in the next one. Cheers.
We can do breathing exercises. Or we can listen to each other's heartbeats, perhaps.
I actually made him curry, and then he hated it.
It's morally horrible.
Yeah, it's morally wrong.
Right, yeah. You're strapping people down and injecting them with drugs?
I'm about to be accosted by a drug addict homeless man. May as well have been like phone sex. It was,
wow.
And I want
So she initiated.
Yeah, exactly.
And a yard gnome mad scientist named Newton von Knuckles.
I'm sorry, but like what the...